Yeah, a friend of mine is trying to figure out how to shade with line work. So I'm putting this together ooh, to show him what I do. Yeah, this paper bleeds bad. Let me go with this. Yeah, let's try this. I'm just gonna create some tree branches here, similar to the thing I did on my last drawing, one of my most recent drawings. And I'm not going to take great care in getting any kind of accuracy, since we're talking primarily about shading. Yeah, that shows up much better. We'll, aside from showing the shading on the tree itself, we'll darken up the background between these branches. And I don't think I'm going to do the whole background or all the trees. All right. Hopefully those trees make sense. Um, yeah. First, I'm looking for a smaller pen here. I'm one of those guys that tends to do a lot of detail rather than faking it. So this is just a quick rough tree bark pattern, not even a pattern really. But it gives the image close enough, I think. I was just kind of running today, trying to what that's all about. Sketch fast so that I don't waste all y'all's time. I'm getting undisciplined. All right. So that's a basic tree texture that I use for a lot of pine trees. Um, at least the ponderosas. Probably work for oak as well. Elm probably. All right, let's have light coming from this direction roughly. So the left side of those trees would be lit up. Right side would be darker. Typically, what I do is I I go over the texture on the darker side of the tree then several times. And more on the darkest side than on the lightest side. Pattern is changing here a little bit. And with these branches, it kind of depends on where that branch is, right? So this one is mostly in light. If we're considering the light source to be up above the page from the left here, so it'll be coming down this way from away from the page, from above the page. So there won't be a lot of shadow on this on that branch. Same with this one. Over here, this branch is probably more in shadow than not. So there would be some dark over there. And I'm going to switch to a thicker pen. This one is a 005. And this one is a 05. Different brands, but this is still a thicker pen. And like I said, just primarily drawing over those lines again. Multiple times so that I can get a darker pattern on the right side of this tree than on the left side. And it kind of has to fade out into the left side. Otherwise, the left side of the tree would just look flat. I'm back to the small pen now because that big one is just way too thick and it is taking away some texture. Here I'm primarily filling in some of the white space. To darken it up a little. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm kind of done with texture now. Again, I would take more care if I was doing this for finished product purposes, finished piece purposes. So from here on, it's all shading. And I'm going to use strokes like this. And this is the crosshatch. I personally do not very often use perpendicular cross hatching. I create diamond shapes. And tight together. Now, this probably requires some practice. I know it did for me. I can get tighter lines if I go a little bit faster. The controlled lines are sometimes necessary. You have to practice it. And if you notice here, on these ends, I'm not lifting the pen up like I should. I'm getting those little hooks. Let me get a bigger pen to show you. And that's actually pretty good. I can't make myself get the hooks. Let me see if I can bring it up to you. Look at the circled area here. Let's give you some more light. If you look at the circled area here, you can see the little hooks on the ends of those lines. That's because I start my return stroke before lifting the pen off the paper. You really want to lift your pen off the paper as you're doing this. Oops, my examples. So I don't know how well this is going to show on camera. Not very well. I'm trying to. Here we go. That shows a little better. Essentially, you're swooping down and swooping back. Down. That's what you want to do. You can see here also on the left side here, my lines are darker because I hit the paper fairly firm. That's more consistent. But basically, just hatching. And then change directions, hatch again. And then if you need to get darker still, you can change directions some more. Right? Change directions again. Now you've got a gradient from darkest side to lightest side. So I'm going to grab the small pen again, start doing some cross hatching on the right side of this tree. That is making a mark. And like I say, I like the small pen to do this and build up slowly, but it does take longer when you do. You may be asking, how do I make sure I'm hitting the line and not going over the line on the right side here? Truth is, I really don't. I'm sketching inside the line, so I'm probably hitting in this area. Let me get a different pencil. I'm probably hitting in this area. I'm going to try this a little better. I'm probably hitting inside the line. If you watch this spot here, right up against the outline, you can see that doesn't really get colored in. I will come back later and more precisely mark up against that line. Not all the time, but usually. Turning the pages, something I often do, rather than trying to draw in an uncomfortable position. Right, I'm going to give you a close up here in a second. Depending on how dark I'd want to go, I'm about done with this. Right, I'm almost black on the right side here. But now, if you notice, whoops, if you look at the white space over here toward the left side, you can see very fine hatch marks and cross hatch marks. Over here, concentration is enough, but you may not see them down here. And down here I didn't touch with the cross hatching. So it's looking a little bit lighter than above. Right? Okay. So now the background. If I were to, let's say this section here, I want to darken that up. Since there's outline all around this area, I do it a little bit differently. It's a little more controlled, but not entirely. I don't necessarily go line to line. I don't know if you can see that. But I will start from the left line and go up to the right line, and then I will start from the right line and go down to the left line. The reason I do it this way is because you can see here. Take a look at the right line. This line here. My hatch marks start with a dark blob. It's difficult when you're up against the line to do that swooping motion, to start and end your stroke off the paper. So I start at the line so that that blob shows up at the line rather than in the middle. If I were to do it in the middle, you can see now that you're getting that little blob where the pen sets down in the middle as well. Well, there is some overlap here. The practice will help control that. Right, so my stroke is stronger toward the line and lift up away from the line. This also helps me out. If I turn it, I get the same stroke from what was the line on the right as on the line from the left, which gives me a more even pattern. Right, I've done a little diamond-shaped cross-hatching there. And changing direction. Do it again. You can see I've just done the top half here. So now I've got a gradient, essentially. So darker at the top, lighter at the bottom. That's with the pen. If you want, you can also use pencil or my pencils. Okay, this is a good example. This is a 2B. Oh, there's not a This is a fat pencil. Not exactly easy to find. But they're kind of nice for shading graphite if you want to do that. And that one's a 6B, so it lays down the mark pretty easily. This is a 2B. But same thing. I'm just hatching in one direction. Since this is graphite, you can get a little broader line. And graphite will also let you lay down a more even tone. Cross hatching here. Lighten up the pressure down here so I can blend it in a little bit. And now we can darken this spot up here some more. Lighten up the pressure. So essentially, that's how I build shape with line shading.